miss and a strikeout. And there's another strikeout. Strikeout victim number 400 in Shohei Ohtani's amazing career on the hill. Has he done it again? He has! He's got 2 tonight! Case made for back-to-back MVPs.
You're a fan of this ballpark or watching on TV? This is history. Every night in the making for Shohei Ohtani. Unbelievable.
Chance of MVP echoing around Angel Stadium.
Well, this time next year, maybe we will see Shohei Ohtani on this list of the largest contracts by total value in MLB history. During the break, Joel had a very good point. He hits like Austin Riley, pitches like Carlos Rodon. So what are you going to pay me?
And is the greatest marketing force in 2 continents in our sport. So if he plays healthy this year and mimics that, he's blowing that list away.
That's right.
He might be the first $500 million player out there. And I would think that there's 10, 15, 20 teams right now figuring out if they could budget him in or not. Or are there a lot of teams saying, I love this player, but A, it's going to cost so much, and B, the reason I'm willing to pay so much is he could do both, but how much longer will he do both? And then am I just paying for an offensive player moving forward? Pretty darn good offensive player.
Well, that leads us to this. Fact or fiction? The Dodgers have had a relatively quiet offseason because they're going to go extremely aggressive after Shohei Ohtani next offseason. Fact or fiction, Joel?
I think it's part of their fact. I think they're trying to stay under that first luxury tax threshold and reset their tax moving forward. And Ohtani is in their vision. I would remember Ohtani had 7 finalists for the first time around. It was 6 West Coast teams and the Cubs who train in Arizona. Does he still feel that way, or is he now reached the point where it's like, oh, I've played in the States for 6 years. I think I would be comfortable, and he plays and open it up. As we've seen, there's an owner in Queens now who doesn't really care what his payroll is. So if this is just about bidding,
right,
and he's willing to play anywhere, I'm willing to make the Mets the favorite today.
Well, to answer that question about the Dodgers, I think it's partly fiction, because I think the Dodgers are at a place where they have to replenish a team less than most teams because they're so talented and so deep. In fact, some of their best players like Justin Turner, are no longer with the club. Bellinger, no longer with the club. Are they a great club? They're still a great club. So I think it's partly fiction. But when Ohtani, in his age 30 season, be 29 this July, he'll be a free agent in his age 30 season. Like Joel said, there'll be a lot of teams that are up for him, but the West Coast pull, I think, is still going to be big for Ohtani.
All right, let's start with your original team.
Sure.
The Texas Rangers. Fact or fiction, the Rangers have been the team that have improved the most at this offseason.
Not many people know that was my original team. Yeah, I think they have. I think they're going to be one of the biggest surprises. I'm a big believer in being behind real smart people. And Chris Young is a guy that I've admired him as a player, and I knew he was just going to get the job done as a GM. He's just too smart not to. Bruce Bochy is going to. No one runs a bullpen better than Bruce. He'll get over some of that. They're going to play a lot of different kind of baseball. They might not score as many runs, but they might not need to with that good starting pitching. Not only did he get good starting pitching, but he also got depth as well, starting with DeGrom. But Bochy did not sign a contract to manage the Texas Rangers to be in 3rd or 4th place. He's there to go to the postseason, and I think they do this year.
Ooh, okay. Joel?
Yeah. So,
fact or fiction?
I think it's right, but I would throw this in. I really, on a lot lower level, I really like the stuff the Angels did this offseason. And I wonder if at some point they get some blessings that they don't traditionally get. And what happens if Trout is healthy all year, if Rendon is healthy all year, and if Ohtani's healthy all year with the people they've brought in this offseason. Because I think they've had a good offseason in bringing in multiple pieces that should help them.
Yeah, if those two teams progress like you guys both predict.
Maybe the Astros won't win by 25
Well,
games
then the American League West becomes a very, very, very competitive division, top to bottom.
And also, maybe you don't need the 95 to get through. Maybe you need 85, 86, 87 wins.
All right, fact or fiction, Brian Reynolds will be traded before the start of spring training. Joel?
I don't think so. Every team I talk to who I think should be in and probably is in for Reynolds say that the Pirates, justifiably to some degree, have asked for a king's ransom. And I think they've done it for two reasons, Flo. Number one, they control this player through the 2025 season. So it isn't like they probably feel that they could get as much for him this July as they could get right now.
Yeah.
You know, you always run risk, injury, performance, etc. The other thing I think they're feeling some burden of is this player asked out. And I think the Pirates are afraid to set the NBA-like precedent of a star player comes and says they want out. You're a small market team. You're going to open some floodgates here if guys can ask their way out.
That's true.
So I think the Pirates will be overpaid for the player and then justify it by saying, well, we don't care that he asked out. This was $1.50 for $1. So that's why we did it, or they'll wait until at least July.
Well, I think also what's working for the Pirates is that with all the superstars they had in 2014, 15, 16, and on, I'm talking about Coles and McCutcheons and others, they don't have a lot to show for it when you think about it. So they're trying to use Reynolds as a tool maybe to get to replenish and get some better players so they can compete at that level. Now, listen, when you think about Reynolds, Brendan Nimmo just got $162 million over 8 years. If you look at their numbers from last season, very, very close. So they feel like Brian Reynolds is a $162 million player, so they're going to want something in return. I'm not sure they're going to get it, and Reynolds might end up being there till the middle of the year.
The New York Yankees were one of the handful of teams rumored to be a possible trade partner with the Pittsburgh Pirates. So fact or fiction here, starting with you, Ron. The Yankees' addition of Omar Minaya and Brian Sabean to their front office is a big deal. Fact or fiction?
I think it's fiction in this way, is that I think everyone just thinks of that because Sabean and Minaya are there, that all of a sudden, you know, they're going to take all the information that they use at a high level as well as anyone else in the game and throw it out. That certainly is not the case. This is a simple case of a general manager, one of the best in the game, in Brian Cashman, who just got a 4-year deal and would like to be surrounded by like-minded people, people he likes, people that are really smart in the game, so you can temper not only all this information, but also be able to say, what do you guys think? What do you see?
That makes sense.
You know, the Yankees have always had the veteran baseball guy near Brian Cashman. It was once Gene Michael. It was then Kevin Towers. For about the last 8 to 10 years, it's been Jim Hendry. So this is just adding on to that. I would say for anyone who is like, well, this is a reaction to the losing to the playoffs again to the Astros. Number one, the Astros are more analytic than the Yankees, but I know facts never get in the way of a good argument. But Brian Sabean actually called Brian Cashman. He wasn't really being used with the Giants anymore and said, is there a space for me? Sabean was one of the mentors to Cashman. He hasn't forgotten. He knows one of the guys who helped bring the core four and a load of other talent that they used in trades. He thinks there's value there. Omar Minaya and Brian Cashman have been pals for a long time, and Brian talked to him last offseason about a job, but Omar was doing some work for the Mets plus for Major League Baseball on things like the international draft. He said, give me one more year at least, and there's the year. So, these things fell into place. The Yankees aren't running away from analytics. It's always good to have veteran, smart people. I would put Omar Minaya and Brian Sabean into that.
Fiction as well. I think that there's certain guys that are out there like Sabeans and Minayas, and there's others. There's not many of them, that if they're not with a team and they want to be with you, you hire them. And even if you're not sure what you're going to do with them, you want their talent there. Yeah,
both of those guys have done a lot of winning, that's for sure. All right, coming up here on MLB Tonight, we're going to honor the late Nate Colburn. How the Padres' all-time home run leader found himself in the middle of one of the strangest coincidences in baseball history. We'll celebrate the life of Nate Colburn.